Okay, it's 6:00 p.m. We'll call this meeting to order. We'd like to welcome everyone to the Northern Regional Advisory Council meeting. This meeting is being held in person at Weber County Commission chambers and is also being streamed live on YouTube. This public forum allows you to express your opinions and ideas on wildlife management in our state. The RAC considers your feedback on the proposals before us today and reports them to the Wildlife Board. The Wildlife Board, not the RAC, is charged with setting wildlife policy for our state. We all have ideas and opinions about what is best for Utah's wildlife. It's why we're here today. We encourage those who want to express their opinion to fill out a comment card. Comments at today's meeting should be focused on the topics listed on the agenda. Unrelated comments will not be heard today and should be sent directly to DWR or RAC and board members for consideration at another time. We expect those in attendance to respect the people who speak, especially those who hold views that don't align with their own. Respectful behavior facilitates efficient meetings where RAC members can listen, digest, and address the concerns, ideas, and proposals being presented. Disrespectful behavior will not be tolerated, and those who engage in it will be asked to leave. Lastly, please help reduce distractions during the meeting by putting your phone on silent. If you need to take a call, we ask that you step outside. And as always, one last note as we exit today, we've been asked to exit out the front doors on the west side of the building, please. Okay, with that, we will start off with RAC member welcome and introductions. I want to start over here with Wyatt.
Wyatt Selman, Agriculture.
James Carlson, Public at Large.
Brian Brown, Public at Large. Steve Sorensen, Sportsman.
Ross Worthington, Public at Large.
Hunter Stallings, Agriculture.
Darren Perry, Shoshone Nation.
And I believe we have two online, Robert and Brandon. Are you guys there?
Brandon Zundel, Public at Large.
Rob, are you there online? Okay. We do have a few board members listening in online. Gary Nilsson, Justin Oliver, and Kent Johnson. We want to recognize them today. We would like to welcome the DWR staff, especially those that will be provided presentations and are available to answer questions through the meeting. Craig Walker, Trina Hedrick, Alyssa Hoekstra, hope I get that right, Mike Worrell, Lindy Marney, and Joe Wright. I also want to recognize we have Paula Richmond online, sorry, from the Wildlife Board as well. So, okay, we'd like to welcome the public that are attending in person and that are watching on YouTube. Those that are attending in person will have the opportunity to provide comments regarding any agenda item. If you wish to make a comment, you must fill out the comment card for the item you wish to address. See that we receive it prior to the RAC discussion on that agenda item. The public that are watching on YouTube will not be able to provide live comments during the meeting. However, presentations were provided for viewing online. The public was able to provide comments to the RAC members prior to this meeting. Okay, that should cover all of the introductions. Our next agenda item. We'll have the approval of the agenda and minutes from our last meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda meeting minutes.
Second. Okay, motion by Ross, seconded by James to approve the agenda and minutes from our last meeting. Well, there's not really any discussion. Let's go for raise of hands and vote. Okay, Brandon?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimous. All right. Since our last meeting, we've had two different. Oh, Rob, have you joined us now?
I believe so. Can you hear me?
Okay, we can hear you now.
and I approve the minutes.
All right. Thanks. Okay, thank you. For Wildlife Board update, we've had 2 meetings since our last RAC meeting. One in June. And in that one, we had motion to approve the upland game recommendations as presented, and that passed unanimously. For the wild turkey recommendations, the motion was to approve the recommendations as presented by the division with the stipulation that the division would report back each year with an update on the voucher sales and how many turkeys were taken, including the sex. And that passed unanimously. For CWMUs with public lands, the motion was to accept the rule amendments as presented by the division. That passed 4 in favor with 2 recusals. Our 657-24 compensation for mountain lion, bear, wolf, eagle damage. Motion was to accept the amendments as presented, and that passed unanimously. On the R657-11 taking fur bearers, motion was to reject the proposal for taking fur bearers and trapping as presented by the division, and that passed unanimously. Use of division lands rule amendments, motion was to accept the amendments as presented, and that passed unanimously. Had an action log, a motion for an action log item under that same agenda topic to have a yearly report on whether the money donated through users' optional donations is keeping up with the cost of maintaining these properties for their intended purpose. And if it is not, to look at either an access permit or WMA passport or a method for non-traditional user groups to help participate in the cost to maintain the WMA properties for their intended purposes, and that passed unanimously. Wildlife consultation procedure for renewable energy facilities. That motion was to accept as presented by the division. That passed unanimously. On the white sturgeon introduction, the motion was to accept the white sturgeon introduction as presented. That passed unanimously. And on the bear season dates amendment, the motion was to accept as presented by the division, and that passed unanimously. That was from the June meeting. We did have a meeting just last week. It was just a board meeting. None of this came through the RACs. It addressed drought permits and bison permits in the Book Cliffs. So for the drought permits request, there were some increases on antlerless elk permits, mainly in southern and central Utah. And the motion was to approve those requests as presented, and that passed unanimously. For the bison hunts in the Book Cliffs, they've had a disease outbreak there with, it basically led to ammonia. We lost around 40% on the Bitter Creek side. And so the motion was to accept the bison hunt recommendations in regard to the archery permits on the Book Cliffs as presented by the division. And then a follow-up motion, then that passed 4 in favor, 2 opposed. A follow-up motion to that was to approve the remaining bison hunt recommendations as presented by the division. And that passed unanimously. And those main proposals were to allow any weapon hunters the options of turning their permits back in with the loss of that herd. So, okay. That was a lot from the Wildlife Board. So, all right, we'll move on to regional update with Blair.
Okay, so it's been a minute since we've had a meeting, so I just wanted to give you a quick update on some of the stuff we've been doing over the summer. It's been a lot. So you have any questions on it, I'm happy to chat about it after we run through this. So go for the first slide. Okay, so in our admin section, we've had a few new employees. This will be a trend for quite a few of our groups of employees in our region. We've got 2 new people on our front counter. That's Cleo and Aubrey. If you swing by, they'll be the ones up there helping you. So welcome them if you see them. Also, a quick update for permit and hunt dates. We do have Martin permits. They'll be going available here tomorrow. And also just a quick reminder about harvest surveys. Those are mandatory now for big game. So if you have any questions about it, and we have the reference there for the guidebook, but just remember to do that. You should get plenty of emails and texts and other things, but it is something that people forget. So just remember to do that after your hunt. In our aquatic section, we've had a lot of survey work going on, a lot of high elevation stuff up in the Uintas, as well as some stuff at Bear Lake and over at Willard Bay. We've also been spending quite a bit of time on Pine View. If you haven't heard, that's been drawn down to the point now where you can't launch boats, and they'll continue to go down throughout the fall. That's in regards to a large-scale project going on with Ogden City to develop and fix their water lines so they can have drinking water. It has led to a pretty cool opportunity for us, though. We're going to be able to put out some structures in the water on the lake bed, and when that fills back up, it should provide really good habitat for some of our fish species and also help with some of the predator species in the water. So looking forward to that. Ogden City has been a big partner. They're contributing a big chunk of money. We're putting some in too. So should be good things happening there as we bring water back into Pine View, hopefully starting later this winter or early spring. Our natives aquatics program has also been busy out and about collecting different species. We've collected some spawning green sucker eggs. Those are part of a study with USG looking at thiamine deficiency. We're also been collecting some northern litterside chub. Those are going to a hatchery up in Wyoming, and then also some boreal toadwort. We've collected those in Monte Cristo. Those are going to be raised for us by Hobo Zoo. So all these are going to be in efforts to just help those species put some of them back out into the wild as we raise them up. So should be good. A lot of good things happen in that program. In our habitat section, we have a new biologist that'll be starting on Monday. Her name's Jennifer Bridgman. She's going to be our impact biologist. So she'll be looking at all of the oil and gas stuff or other impacts that are happening throughout the region with our habitat. Sarah Capel was in that position, and she just recently moved to our habitat restoration biologist. She has a really strong background in fire, so we're excited to have her there. I think her skill set will pair really well with that program. Our habitat biologist has been working on a lot of projects, specifically with fire, and we've been fortunate to not have as many big fires in the region, but we have had a few, and so they're working on rehabbing those right now and getting funding and other things in place. Just to hit on some of those fires we've had, some of these have been on our WMAs. Middle Fork burned earlier this year. It was about 400 acres, but we were able to get it put out fairly quickly. It did burn through some of our shrub steppe habitat. East Canyon WMA, a large portion of it burned. It burned basically across almost the whole thing. This picture to the right is a picture of that. That's the new stuff that we just recently acquired. A lot of that was sagebrush, so it was a stronghold for some of our sage grouse in that area. You can see it's pretty much nuked, so that'll be a big impact on them, as well as some big game winter range. But it should be good. Some of the higher elevation stuff will come back, I think, in some good aspen and oak and some other species that'll be beneficial. We've also had the Johnson Canyon fire. This is in Box Elder County. It's going to impact deer, sage grouse, and some sharp-tailed grouse. It's just kind of west of that Plymouth area. And so hopefully we don't have any more, we'll knock on wood, but they've been relatively small in the region, which is generally a good thing. So we'll be working on restoration efforts through the fall and hopefully get some good seed and other plant species back in those to start coming up this spring. Waterfowl program, some changes that have happened there as well. We've been working on putting some new positions at Bear River Bird Refuge. One of those is going to be a conservation easement position where part of that person's time will be going about doing conservation easements in the Bear River watershed. And then the other half will be helping to manage Bear River Bird Refuge. And then if any of you know Rich Hansen, he's been one of our long-term waterfowl biologists. He moved from Ogden Bay Complex up to Bear River. We'll be doing habitat work up there as well. So it should be some awesome stuff happening. He's already been busy moving water around, planning habitat projects. So I would anticipate that even this fall, you'll probably see a lot more birds up there, especially swans. So refuge should be a real happening place here in the next coming year. We also replaced Rich at Ogden Bay. So Talon Robinson, he was one of our biologists a couple of years ago. He's been working in forestry, fire, and state lands, has a real strong skill set for Great Salt Lake. So we're excited to have him as the new manager at Ogden Bay. And we also hired someone to oversee all of our waterfowl program. That person's Ashley Kajowski. So she started about a month ago and is doing awesome as well. So excited about the changes happening in the waterfowl program. In terms of workload, they've been doing a lot of stuff in terms of just habitat management. And we got quite a few burns in this last spring, so removed a lot of our residual kill off from Phragmites from last fall. Also done quite a few carp treatments on a variety of our waterfowl areas, as well as a large scale die-off in Willard Spur, which should really help habitat there. And then a lot of big habitat projects we've got funded. Some of those are happening at Ogden Bay, Farmington Bay, Salt Creek, and public shooting grounds. All those are really in an effort to help manage habitat, as well as a lot of water control structures and other water management. So a lot of good things happening out there on the Great Salt Lake wetlands. Lastly, just wanted to hit on some of our capture operations. So this last summer, we banded about 2,600 geese. One of them was over 21 years old, so it was a really cool bird to see. We've done some duck banding the last month or so. We've caught about 1,200 birds and banded those, a lot of mallards, cinnamon teal, and gadwall, as well as put some MODIS tags on. So those are essentially an electronic device that sends out a signal to a tower, similar to a cell phone tower. So as birds come near those all across the flyway, they'll send a ping out and we'll get a notification. So should help us in monitoring our birds and where they're going. And we were able to get some GPS collars on 7 trumpeter swans this last spring too, which is really exciting. And we're anxious to see where they go and what they're doing. Our outreach program, we had a pretty neat seminar just recently, a pointing dog seminar where we had Brett Wanacott help out. Really good opportunity for people to learn about how to utilize their dog, increase their skills, really well attended, and Brett does a great job. So we're excited to have that effort and for his help and support in that event. We've also been working on a lot of bear issues in the region and trying to help educate people in campgrounds and other places like that. So we've been working really closely with the Houndsman, Forest Service, and other partners to put up better bear signs, do more training. It's really become a really good partnership. I think it's helped quite a bit, despite the fact we've had a lot of issues with bears. I think the efforts here really went a long ways, and we appreciate all of our partners in helping with those events and that education component. Our law enforcement section, they've been really busy on fire security. We've had officers all around the state helping to keep people from going into the fire areas and helping keep them safe, as well as our people working on those to be able to focus on fighting the fire. We have one officer in post right now who will be filling our Morgan County district. If any of you know Corinne Cox, she worked at our front desk and did some stuff with our wildlife section. She'll be taking over that district, so excited for her. We've also got a conditional offer for a new officer in our Weber Davis area. And our officers have been helping a lot with a lot of the weird situations we've had. A lot of bear issues, also quite a few moose issues. So they've been alongside us helping with all those situations. In wildlife, a few changes that's happened there as well. Adam Brewerton went to Salt Lake office to be our conservation program coordinator down there. So we replaced him with Josh Fife. He's got a really strong bat background and has hit the ground running. So we're excited to have him in that position. And then Zach Ullman is our landowner specialist. He's dealing with depredation issues, nuisance issues out in Box Elder County area. We've also been doing a lot of pronghorn elk classification, and we're kind of wrapping up those events, but there are still a few of those going on. Also got CWMU applications coming in right now. Some depredation. It hasn't been too bad so far, but we have had some issues in some localized areas around the region. And then again, nuisance bears. That's kind of been a trend across the entire state. We've had all of our regions dealing with bear issues. We've had our fair share as well. You may have seen the one in Logan just last week or two. So kind of high profile stuff, kind of hard to deal with, but it's just part of the dry conditions we're dealing with bears right now. And then in wildlife, we had a pretty cool back event a couple weeks ago where we were able to catch bats up at Alta. Since then, over the last 2 weeks, we've had bats go pretty much all across the West. So it's pretty interesting to see where these birds are going. Some of them are staying here. Some are going south into Mexico. Some are going east to Colorado. Some north to Montana. Some just going to Idaho and back. So pretty cool to see these movements. They're moving a lot farther than I guess probably any of us would have guessed. So learned a lot of cool things with those GPS units we're putting on all sorts of animals. Lastly, just a few things going on if any RAC members are interested. Like I said, we have some elk and pronghorn classification. So if you're interested, get with us really quick. We may be able to get you out on one of those days going out and counting stuff. We've also got our Phragmites spraying. So we'll be doing that for next week or so. If you want to go out and spray Phragmites, spend some day with a wildlife biologist, that's an opportunity as well. Okay, that's all I've got.
Okay, thank you, Blair. All right, we will move on to agenda item number 5. The spearfishing update. This is an informational item only. We have Craig Walker online.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry for not being able to be there tonight. I'm actually in Boise, Idaho at the State's Organization for Voting Access Conference, where I serve as Utah's voting representative. Just before we jump into any questions you might have, I wanted to recap some highlights from the presentation. This harvest assessment was undertaken in partnership with our spearfishing interest groups, and it was in response to a request from the board in September of 2024 to evaluate the potential impact of spearfishing harvest on key sportfish species like smallmouth bass and walleye. Findings from the survey showcase the fact that harvest of walleye and smallmouth bass by spearfishers in Utah is unlikely to impact population management for those species. The findings also highlight that spearfishing might be harnessed as an effective tool for removal of nuisance fish like common carp, or possibly for targeted harvest efforts aimed at removing segments of overpopulated sportfish populations. At this time, the division would like to maintain our current spearfishing opportunities, while continuing to monitor harvest in an effort to ensure that any future expansion of the sport does not impact the health and size structure of sportfish populations in Utah. And that about covers it. If anybody has any questions, I'll take them now.
Okay, thank you, Craig. Open it up for any questions from RAC members. Okay. All right, and that one's an informational only, so appreciate the presentation and the update on that, Craig.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we'll move on to agenda item number 6, fishing recommendations 2027-2028 with Trina Hedrick.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Chair, RAC members. I would just start off. I don't need to reiterate anything. I don't think it was a lot of information, but I do want to, after last night's meeting, just express gratitude to all of the anglers who took the time to provide feedback, and whether it was at our angler group meetings early on or just through the statewide survey that we have sent out. A lot of the feedback we received, it really helped us craft these regulations, and we're very appreciative of it. And I'm just, happy to be here and answer any questions or address concerns you might have.
Okay, thank you. We'll start off with any questions from RAC members on this fishing recommendations. Okay, any questions from the public? All right. Okay, I think that's simple. We have any public comments on this agenda item summarized?
Yep, so we did have 3 people respond to this. One strongly agreed, and one somewhat agreed, or 2 somewhat agreed. So it's an average of 4.3. And then they left a few comments. One comment just strongly agreed with the recommendations that came from Utah Anglers Coalition. And then a few of the comments that had some concerns. One of them wanted to see the muskie minimum go to 45 inches instead of 40. And there's also a comment about Burdick sculpin not being on the prohibited or the list of prohibited bait fish.
Okay. All right. We do have one public comment card on this one. Jeff Salt. Okay. You can come up to the microphone, just state your name, please.
Sure. Thank you. My name is Jeff Salt. I'm the Secretary and Treasurer for the Utah Anglers Coalition. And we did provide written comment, but we wanted to reinforce our comments tonight with a personal appearance. We were really happy to participate in the process that was established for this cycle, which was different than previous years. In previous years, we as a statewide angling organization, we've been around for 22 years, and we try to network with all different sectors of the angling community, and we have regular monthly meetings. So we've been active in the regulation changes as they go through their 2-year cycles. And in the past, we felt like there was kind of a lack of stakeholder participation in formulating the regulations, and the time frame was always kind of rushed. And so we were running up against the deadlines for the RAC meetings and the Wildlife Board in order to digest and provide comments. Based on that history, the team that worked on this cycle adjusted the whole strategy, and we started much earlier in the year of the cycle. And we had 3 meetings with division representatives working on the regulations with our group. And that was impressive. And we support that new approach of extending the time frame for public involvement and for early participation and for participating in surveys on each of the regulations, and the outreach and participation in our meetings in order to help reach out to the whole angling community that we try to represent was admirable by the division staff. And so we want to give credit to all of those that worked on this project. The only other, when we support all the regulations, and the only other comment that we would have about this year's process was that we still felt like at the end, the final draft of the regulations was given to us with a little bit too short a time, because it happens during the summer months and it happens when people are on vacation. And so it's hard for us as a volunteer organization to get that back out to people and formulate our organizational's position and get it to the RAC and the board on time for your public written comment deadlines. But that's the only point that we would like to see improved in the future, just a little bit more time at the end, so we have time to prepare and submit comments. But otherwise, great process, nothing too controversial in the regulations that caused any heartburn. So we want to let you know that we're always an active participant, and we try to get the word out to as many of the 450,000 licensed anglers in our state. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, that was the only public comment card we had for this agenda item, so we'll open it up for RAC discussion. All right, entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to pass the recommendations as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Ross, seconded by Ryan to accept the fishing recommendations for 2027, 2028 as presented. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, call for a vote, raise of hands by those in the room. Okay, online, Rob
Yes.
and Brandon.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimous. All right, thank you. Agenda item number 7. R657, well, there's a number. Rule amendments with Trent Hedrick still. So, okay.
I don't have anything additional for this. Just again, happy to answer questions or address any concerns you might have.
Okay. Any questions from RAC members on this one? All right, any questions from the public? Okay. Did we have public comments on this one? No, okay. And no public comment cards, so we're not for any RAC discussion. I'll bet there's people in the division that wish they worked in fisheries when they come through these meetings.
I don't know why anyone would not work in fisheries.
All right.
I'll make a motion that we accept it as presented.
I'll second.
All right. Motion by Ryan, seconded by Hunter to accept the R657-3C, R657-13, and R657-14 rule amendments as presented. Call for a vote. Raise your hands by those in the room. Online, Rob
Yes.
and Brandon.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, agenda item number 8, amphibian and reptile CITP R657-53 with Alyssa. I hope I say your name right.
You pronounced it right the first time
Okay.
earlier, so
Is it
well,
Hoekstra?
Hoekstra. Yeah,
Okay, all right.
yeah.
Well, welcome.
That's how you said it the first time anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. Hello, Mr. Chair and RAC members. Thank you for taking the time to review these proposed changes, and I'm happy to take any questions or concerns you might have.
Any questions from RAC members? Okay, any questions from the public? All right. This is going great. Yeah, we didn't have any public comment cards on this one. Okay. All right, we will, any RAC discussion? All right, entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept it as presented.
I'll second it.
Motion by Wyatt, seconded by Steve to accept amphibian and reptile CITP R657-53 as presented. Tim, call for a vote, raise your hand for those in the room. And online, Rob,
Yes.
Brandon,
Yes.
okay, motion passes unanimous. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right, I don't think this one's as quiet. Agenda item number 9, elk mid-plan review, Mike Wardle.
Can be.
It could be, but it won't, so.
We're gonna have to drag it out, as my wife will expect me at home at this time every RAC meeting.
I don't have anything to add, Mr. Chair, but I'm happy to take questions.
Okay, we'll start off with questions from RAC members.
I'll jump in and ask just a few. How are they, what are we seeing numbers wise as far as with the age classifications? Like, are we seeing those coming down to where they want? Are we still seeing more opportunity for more tags to bring those down? Like, how's that looking?
I think there's still opportunity to add more permits on most of the units. So the weird thing about managing based on average age is sometimes when you add permits to a unit, you end up increasing the age of the bulls that are harvested. You know, if you look at an example like the beaver, we were really conservative on permits, managing for the highest age category, and then we moved it down a year. And as we continued to issue more tags, the average age went up because we were now harvesting bulls that probably people passed on in the past. You know, it's like maybe a 310, 320 bull that was 14 years old, never been any bigger. But now because there's more hunting pressure out there, people are less selective. And so it's different for each unit, but on some units, we've seen those average ages or the ages bump up. Others are working closer to the objective, but definitely we still are in the process of pushing those units towards the new objectives. So more opportunity, I think, to come in the future.
Okay. And then I don't know if I didn't get a chance to see who was on the committee, but on the 3 season, I'm happy to see that potentially coming back. But I get a little bit of the thought process on putting restrictions on those numbers, creating a demand, but I also have some concerns going the other way. So what was kind of the thought process in that conversation? Because I'd hate to see too many. It seemed like that was increasing year over year and seeing too many people back out there where we're talking about crowding.
Sure, yeah. And so with the multi-season permit, the recommendation is just to bring it back the way it was when we had it from 2018 to 2022, which at that time, there wasn't a cap on how many of those permits could be sold. During the elk plan revision in 2022, the committee had recommended to put a cap on those of 7,500 permits. When that went to the board, they not only didn't do the cap, they also axed the multi-season permit, right? And that's, as you know, been something that we've heard consistent feedback that people wanted it back. And then the other portion that you mentioned is removing, so we're recommending just to bring it back without a cap, the way it was before. And then the other portion is to remove that 15,000 permit cap on the any bull permits, which only applied to the muzzleloader and the early rifle season. The last 2 years, we haven't hit it. Ever since we added that late hunt, we haven't hit it. And I think really the purpose behind that is to make sure that these any bull units are maintaining the objective that's set out in the plan. I mean, really the any bull units are there to be an opportunity that a hunter can count on getting every single year. And during the years of COVID, we saw that not fulfill that design, right? Because they sold out so quickly. And so in 2022, we added that later rifle hunt that didn't have a permit cap in an effort to always make sure something was there. And I think that the committee wanted to remove that 15,000 permit cap because now they're seeing it as it's less necessary than it used to be because we're not reaching it. And we just want to make sure that there's always that opportunity. Is that fair, Brad? You were on the committee.
Yeah, I think that was kind of summed up our discussion. I think there's still somewhat of an underlying interest to see if having that cap on there is still driving some artificial demand almost still. Yeah, it seems to have come down, but maybe there's still some of that.
Are you still requiring to pick at first or second rifle season, or is it now going back to the old way of, hey, if you have the
One
tag,
season.
it's all one season?
Yeah, they're back to back. So
Okay.
yeah.
Was there any discussion about removing the later and just making it one again? Or
We discussed it. So in the committee, the decision was made to keep the early and the late. I don't know that we necessarily nailed down if we wanted people to choose the early or the late or just a rifle permit. That's something we probably need to figure out internally.
Yeah, I know originally that discussion had come up in 2022, whether they multi-season tag holders would be able to hunt both or just one. We didn't have a lot of discussion on that in the committee this time.
it would just make sense that if they're both uncapped to remove one season to me, but I wasn't on the committee.
Yeah. My guess is that's probably how we'll do it internally. Not make people choose early or late rifle, but just let them buy a rifle permit if it goes through as is.
I think your ratio between early rifle and late rifle sales was like 3-to-1 or something.
Yeah. A quarter of the people were hunting that late rifle in comparison to the early rifle.
We didn't talk about this much, but I'm a little curious. We also took off the cap on multi-season spike. Do you remember when that was implemented, did we see a bump in success rate overall in spike hunts with the multi-season? I guess I'm kind of wondering we had a bunch of people buy multi-season tags on the spike hunts. What controls are in place so we don't take too many bulls off our limited entry units?
Yeah, I can pull that up real quick unless, I tried to prepare all the harvest data I could think of. And I didn't think of that one.
And Brad chooses spike.
There you go.
I got it for the Eddie Bowl
I
units.
held on to that one for a month and a half. Just to ask.
But I can pull that up quick for you. So on the Eddie Bowl units, since I do have that prepared, I'll bring that up while I look for the spike. Multi-season hunters were slightly more successful. They averaged between 2018 and 2022 about 19%. Whereas some of your other hunts were more around 13. Some years they were at 16, but 13% was the average for the other hunts.
While you're looking up that other number, this might be a Lindy question, but in 2022, where those multi-season any bowls continue to go up, how many multi-seasons were purchased that last year that it was available?
I've got that here too.
7,900.
Those are gonna be your more serious hunters that pick that tag. Probably why the success is higher.
I used to think so, but I bought multi-season every year and I think I hunted elk less when I had it, so.
I make a good point there,
Yeah.
Brad.
So on multi-season spike, your success rate looking back to 2018, looks like the low end is 16% success. The high end is 25. So it looks like it's usually around that 19 to 20%. If you compare that to any legal weapon, again, slightly higher. So we've had the high end has been 17%, low end around 10%. So slightly more successful.
A little bit, but it's basically in line with the any bowl multi-season.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions for Mike?
Mike, would you consider doing away with the 2 seasons on the Any Bowl? If somebody made that proposal, I don't want to.
Well,
I
honestly,
don't want there to be a reason that it's staying like that because it makes more sense to me to
just have one rifle season. Yeah, we really didn't get into that detail. I feel like, I mean, we felt like we still wanted them to be able to hunt both of those time periods, but whether we lumped them together or made people choose early or late, I don't know that we necessarily split that hair, but we probably ought to. So
Yeah, I think that's actually a good point from Steve. If the 15,000 cap comes off, they're both unlimited. They might as well just be one season.
Was there any conversation, great for resident, but with it becoming harder and harder to get elk tags in other states, is there any conversation on limiting the number of non-resident
That was
tags?
one of my concerns.
Because where you are definitely going to see, I feel like Utah, people are looking for an opportunity. And if we become the only opportunity state that they can buy it over the counter now with unlimited, feel like we're going to become the new popular non-res state.
yeah, so I think it's a good conversation to have. Just looking at the previous year's data on any bowl. So our normal non-resident split is 90-10, right? 90% resident, 10% non-resident. If we were to go with that split, we would actually give way more permits to non-residents. So on the highest years, non-residents have made up 6% of the any bowl permits that were sold.
I think that would be valid for Utah. People didn't really look at Utah as the opportunity. My fear is with every other state cutting more and more and it becoming more and more difficult. Anyways, I think it's just something to be maybe mindful of, to be ahead of before it becomes a problem.
Yeah, that'd be interesting how you put in a non-resident cap on an unlimited permit.
I think the prices, from the non-residents I know, the prices usually drive non-residents away from buying, and the success rates. So they drive it away. And then my only comment about keeping the season split is that it does, while they're both unlimited, it does spread people out on the rifle hunt to have them pick a week. I think multi-season should be able to hunt both in my mind. But as far as people just buying a rifle permit, having them choose a week does spread people out rather than bunch of people at one time. But I know people complain about overcrowding, so it's just one way to fight against that. So
I just see everybody picking the first week though. They're both unlimited is my concern, and overcrowding with elk hunting, that might be the roads. But where elk really truly live, gonna be in some hellhole somewhere.
I agree that people still complain though.
Yeah.
I think that's the interesting part is the past 2 years, we haven't met the 15,000 cap on the first hunt. So there's always been permits available and there's still
People that buy
a little over 3,000 people that choose that second hunt for whatever reason.
if you did it, I don't know, just thinking if you did it uncapped both, everybody shoot for that first week. And it's like me, I used to stand in line on my phone and my computer to try to get an elk tag every year. It went unlimited that second week. I haven't bought one yet. I can't have it. I want it. I can have it. I don't want it. So there's that. Now, you know, we've proven that with turkey tags in the state.
Yeah.
When I saw the elk committee did that, I said, oh, that's going to work. And it did work really well. So
Brandon, you got a comment or question?
Yeah, just on this whole making them choose a week thing. I had kind of the same thoughts that, you know, it does kind of force people to spread out, but I think Steve's right. If you force them to pick a week, they're going to pick that first week. Whereas if we do make it a 14-day season, over time, they're going to spread themselves out. I mean, if it's crowded, people are going to learn that, hey, you know what, maybe I don't hunt the opening weekend and I come in when they've gone home. That's my thinking. I think people will spread themselves out if you give them enough room in there to do it. You limit them to a 7-day season, everybody's going to hunt that first 2, 3, 4 days, and they're all going to complain that it was too crowded. So that's my thoughts on it.
Do we need to,
I just think, I think Brad's point though, is that there already is leftover tags for any bowl for the first week that people aren't buying. So
anyway,
anyway,
just a conversation like for when we have that conversation on.
Yeah.
Part. So,
Well, yeah, to be continued in just a second.
sorry.
Any other questions from RAC members? Thank you for the reminder. Do you know just roughly how many of our limited entry units are meeting age objective?
Let me look real quick.
And are they over objective or are there any under objective?
So we have 2 that are under objective. Everything else is either within objective or over objective. And there are more that are over objective than under objective. So
that's on what?
that's across the state.
Limited
On
entry.
limited entry elk
Age
units.
objective. Which 2 are under right now?
Wasatch Mountains and Book Cliffs, Bitter Creek East.
Okay. Any other questions?
What is the spike success rate on the limited entry units about where you want it? What was that set for?
Sorry, hang on one sec. Let me correct myself. That Book Cliffs, Bitter Creek East is not under age objective. Something was screwed up with my table.
And while you're looking at that, how far under is the Wasatch?
Wasatch. Sports are tiny. It's at 5 years old and the age objective is 5.5 to 6. Sorry, what was the question that you had?
The success rate for this limited entry on spikes, are we hitting that?
We don't necessarily have an objective for it. Let me pull it up here. So success rate, like for the any legal weapon on spike units, yeah, it's anywhere from 10 up to 17%, looking at the last 15 years. So like I say, we don't have an objective for that success rate, but we track it.
All right, any other questions? Any questions from the public? All right, let's summarize public comment on this one.
Yeah, so we have 3 responses on this, one that somewhat agreed, one somewhat disagreed, and one strongly disagreed. The 2 comments that were there were both just some concerns about multi-season tags. One, just not supporting it in general because of crowding issues. Then the other supported no cap, but did think there should be a quota for the multi-season permits.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, one other quick question, just maybe pertinent. And how many archery tags are sold on the Any Bowl? I know they're unlimited, but just how many are sold? Do we have that number?
We do. So in 2025, we sold 11,764.
That's.
I don't
good
have the
enough.
number for 24, but yeah.
No, that's fine. 25 gives me an idea. Thank you.
All right, we do have 3 public comment cards on this agenda item. We'll start with Adam Dennison, followed by Kevin Norman.
Hi, everybody. My name is Adam Dennison. I represent backcountry hunters and anglers here in Utah. And we did discuss at length the different elk proposals, and we are in agreement on all of those. One of our board members, our chair, sits on the elk committee and was able to give us a little bit more insight into that process. We particularly wanted to note that we are, I guess you could say, most in favor of removing that 15K cap and just creating a lot more opportunity for hunters. We do realize that there may be an educational component. People think that's going to add crowding, but yet we're not selling out those tags anyway. So, but we are in favor of all the proposals that are set forth with the elk plan.
Thank you, Adam. Kevin Norman, followed by Angie Wanacott.
Kevin Norman, representing myself. Just for the record, I took a new job and won't be representing SFW anymore. However, I love and bleed SFW and believe in it with all my heart, the mission, and it was an awesome experience. I guess old habits die hard, so here I am. I beat on Dax and then Mike on one of these topics of the hams and archery splits, and so I'd kind of be a jackass to not show up and support them, since here we are. So anyways, I'd like to support especially that piece. I think it'll create a lot more opportunity, just basing those permit numbers off of success rates rather than just the 50-50 split. Also, I like the multi-season. Going back to that, I think in discussion, I think you guys are right on combining the seasons. I'd like to see that as well. If anything we've learned, we can grow elk in this state. So let's use that for good opportunity for everybody to get out and enjoy it, and enjoy their families. And thanks for all you guys do. I'm happy to be here, and I believe in this process, or I wouldn't be. So thanks for your guys' time.
Thanks, Kevin. Angie Wanacott.
Angie Wanacott, representing Sportsmen's for Fish and Wildlife, and we're just here to say that we support this agenda item, and thank you for giving us this opportunity.
Thanks, Angie. Okay, that's all the public comment cards we had, so we will resume our RAC discussion.
Largely, I like everything about this, but I do have some concerns that to bring up, and that is, so I think everybody was caught off guard when the board did away with it, when that wasn't even in the topic or discussion. So I'd love to see the 3-season coming back. I don't necessarily have per se a problem with combining the 2 weeks. Again, this becomes part of the social issue of it versus the biological. But as you say, we're not selling out the 15,000. There's people that choose to hunt that second week. And my concern with not capping the multi-season is 11,700 or so archery hunters. A large portion, when we saw those higher numbers and the crowding and those tags selling, I can tell you from myself, I am a primarily archery hunt, but when that multi-season existed, I know lots of people that are just archery hunters bought that tag. And so now if we go to that uncapped and we're hitting that 14,000 or so, whatnot, and we bring that multi-season, I'm going to be buying one and I'm going to be back out there. So now my concern is brings us again, that number of going, when we used to see it sell out and it was selling out in days, hours the last year, right? Again, yes, it's an uncapped, it's a resource, but now do we run back into that situation of now all of a sudden we're 25,000 people out there that first week because we're bringing people I think a large portion of your people are going to see buying that multi-season. Yes, you're going to get some rifle and muzzleloader guys that are going to buy that for that opportunity, but a large portion is going to come from those that archery hunt. And now we're putting more people back out in the field. And so while I love the idea of maybe if you buy just a rifle tag, getting to hunt both weeks, I think if it's a multi-season, maybe we need I don't know. There just needs, I think, be a little bit more thought. Yes, there's a supply, there's the demand, but when you look at the numbers on who's buying the tags and who's going to buy those multi-season, and again, we went right back to the issue of the crowding. I'm afraid of what that creates. Anyways, that's kind of my thought process to it.
Yeah, I think for me, it's a little interesting. I mean, I bought a multi-season every year it was available, and I hunted less because my thought process honestly usually ended up in, well, I can just hunt the next season, or I can hunt next week, or whatever. Something always came up. So, and I know a number of people that were kind of along that same train, friends of mine and stuff, but and I get there. It feels a little scary. There's part of that unknown, and I think part of that can be said for taking off the 15,000 cap and other things. I think the one part I do like with this elk plan is we have another mid-plan review in 3 years. So this one doesn't set it for the remainder of the 10-year plan. There is still an opportunity if something really changes, which ironically, demand for general season has changed quite a bit since we originally wrote the plan in 22. So there is that little bit of a stopgap in there if we had to, but and then I get people, I think one of the interesting things in 2022, when we went through the elk plan with the multi-season, we were seeing those permit sales go up. At the same time, we were seeing archery permit sales go up. So it wasn't just multi-season hunters now hunting the archery. They were a factor in that, but you had archery permit sales going up as well. So there's multiple parts of that, I think. But
I mean, that would be my question. When that went away, was there an upswing in archery tags? Well, they could look at that going back to the multi-season to see if when it went away, did the archery tags increase dramatically?
Also, just looking at the number of archery permits we've sold. So in 2018 is when we first started the multi-season tag. We sold just under 10,000 archery permits. That next year was over 10,000. 2020 was 12,321. So actually it does. So in 23, when the multi-season permits went away, we saw a bump in the archery permits. So we went from 12,709 to 13,352. So about 600 people more jumped to archery after that multi-season was gone.
But it's not a
not
drastic,
huge
dramatic number,
no.
that.
No,
I mean,
they've
if it was,
remained
if
pretty
it was
stable.
3,000 or 4,000 or something, then that would make sense. But I don't know how big of a.
You got two numbers that are happening there. You have archery, and again, not a significant number, but you have archery that went up, and you have the demand on rifle or multi-seasons. Multi-season goes away, and the rifle has come down. So there is definitely a correlation of less people buying the rifle and archery going up. So is it a huge number?
Right.
And again, yes, there's the stopgap. I just to go, okay, what's the data show? It may not be an issue. I just again, I look at it in realms and different sides and who's hunting, right? A lot of rifle, it's that general seasons, the opportunity to hunt, to be out in the field with the family and all that. It's the archery again in the realms and the people to talk with. Yeah, there's a lot of people, it's just the social and enjoying the getaway, but it's not trying to throw everybody into one bucket and put one against, but I see a lot of people that are really dang serious about wanting to kill an animal that are archers. And I look at it in that same sense of going, hey, now I get to extend that. We do see the higher success rate with those that had that multi-season from before. And again, I'm not opposed to going the way that it is planned right now. I just think it's a concern of going, okay, crowding's always been a complaint. If we go increase that again, where there's a big opportunity to see that number increase and who's going to be in the field is the 11,000 or 12,000 plus people that are just archery hunters that now are going to be in the field with everybody that's rifle hunting. And that's simply a, like I say, all it is a point of concern of going, okay, does that put more people in the field than what we'd expect to see?
We've shown in this state, if you make something unlimited, like turkey tag, sales go down, flying over the counter, anybody with a hunt license, harvest rates went down. I would like to try it for 3 years and just see, and revisit it in 3 years if it's a problem and deal with it. But I love the fact that if it's there, it'll probably make the hunt better because less people will do it. Because I'm the perfect example. I stood in that line every year, wanting an elk tag because I couldn't have it, and I haven't bought one since that I can remember, since it went, that second season went unlimited.
I feel kind of the same way about just letting it go for 3 years and see how it goes. I think it's a good idea, all this. I guess Mike could look it up. We could ask him more questions since we like to talk during the question period, and we'll ask him questions during the discussion period. But I feel like I know people that buy multi-season spike permits right now, but would prefer to buy multi-season any bowl. So I know that like the spike permits keep selling out, but I wonder if, and again, we could look at, did multi-season spike permit sales get higher in demand after we took away the multi-season any bowl? But I think there'd be some folks that maybe come off of spike hunting, which would relieve some pressure on limited entry units during those hunts. That's just pure speculation. Again, Mike can look at that data, but yeah.
I can answer that question. They didn't change. So in 23, so in 22, when we had the multi-season any bowl, we sold 4,300 permits. That next year, after the multi-season any bowl was gone, we were at 4,500. The next year was 4,000. Last year was about 4,000, and this year we didn't sell all of them either.
Anyway, I think it's, like I say, as I said, I'm up for the trial because otherwise it's pure speculation on what's going to happen. So letting it see what happens. It's just I love the fact that we're willing to, it doesn't take a whole cycle to try something new and do something different these days, that we can actually take some action and hopefully, let the data speak for itself at that point. Yeah.
Okay, any other comments on this proposal and any of the other recommendations in the proposal? I think this is, having mid-plan reviews and being able to go through this and just kind of look at how things are going, I think is helpful. Just being able to kind of tweak a few things on the committee. We talked about that we weren't there to make a big overhaul of a lot, but to kind of do what we're talking about is be able to look at the last 3 years and what does that look like and what's happened. There's a few things I think probably would have been a little valuable for us as a committee to look at. It may have been a little bigger. I'm not sure that some of our limited entry units, we got the age class objective right. I think there's some adjustments. I don't know that some of the units operate well where they're at. That's just.
I'm curious to be open to sharing what you think.
Yeah, well, when you look at the objectives, when we built the H class, and the one I'm at least a little bit familiar with is Pilot Mountain. I don't think Pilot works well at 4.5 to 5, because the objective of those units is to increase opportunity. We haven't seen big permit increases out there. There's not a large elk herd, and half the tags go to Nevada. I'm not sure that one operates well right there, but it's probably up for a bigger discussion, I think, probably as things go along, and we're only a few years into this. But
I only asked just because I'm curious with the Wasatch, being slightly under, but I spent a lot of time in the Wasatch, and even at where it's at, there's a lot of people that I feel like hunt that unit that I know I've been out on that late muzzleloader that people have that tag, or not the late muzzleloader, the late rifle. And I've talked to people and I've been out there cow hunting or helping people and point out a bull and they don't care that it's a raghorn. It's just, hey, I finally drew a tag and they just want to shoot a bull, and the Wasatch is one of the easiest. So it's, anyways, I'm kind of curious to see how that one continues forward.
Yeah. I will say I'm glad that it is hard in H class management, as Mike said, sometimes you throw permits at a unit, H class goes, it's just one of those things. But Wasatch is kind of the one unit that we got it to the bottom and had to cut tags back. So all the other units, I think, are riding a little above. But. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, we'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we accept the DWR elk and accompanying proposals as proposed.
Would you be willing, if I second it, to add on the one hunt instead of two on the any bull?
I would, but I don't think it necessarily makes a difference one way or the other right at this moment. I'd probably just go with the proposal and see how it goes. It doesn't offend me to do that. So.
You second that or no? Okay. So we have a motion to accept as presented. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Rob, seconded by Hunter to accept the elk mid-plan review as presented. Any discussion on the motion?
I will, again, as much as I have my concerns, I would prefer to see it is doing away with the 2 weeks as well. It just doesn't make sense to, even if it's going to put more people out there on the second, you're only talking 3,000 people out there right now. Why not? Again, if it's supposed to be an opportunity hunt, we're over objective and everything like that. It just seems like it makes sense. So I would prefer to see us do away with the 2 weeks.
Okay. All right. We'll call for a vote. Let's do a raise of hands for those in the room.
I think we're all still kind of in the same boat. And it sounds like Rob, he wouldn't be offended if we added that in. I think everybody would be on board if we were to go away with that 2 weeks, right? Or to make split unit, make it one hunt. Everybody'd be on board, correct? Would you be if we added that in, Rob? Would that be okay with you?
I would vote for it if you did that.
Okay. First, we have a motion on the table to accept that. We'll have to vote on that one first. So, all in favor? Okay. Online, Rob?
Yes.
Brandon?
No.
Okay, motion fails 8-1. Okay, we'll entertain another motion.
I'll make the same motion, Mr. Chairman, and making it one season.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion is to accept the elk mid-plan review and the general season, any bull rifle hunts combined into one season. Okay. Any discussion on the motion? All right, call for a vote. Raise your hands for those in the room. Okay, online, Rob?
Yes.
Brandon?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes unanimous. Thanks, Mike. Okay, agenda item number 10, R657-42 rule amendments with Lindy Barney. Welcome, Lindy.
How's it going?
We're just happy to be here. All right.
Me too. Thanks for having me.
Okay, anything you want to clarify or anything with this one to begin with?
No.
All right.
So answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, we'll start off with any questions from RAC members. This one, sorry, R657-42, this is the changes to the natural disaster relief rule.
Correct.
Yeah, you have a few different ones coming through, so.
Just the 4.
Yeah. Can you tell us?
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Just with, obviously with the fires this year, roughly what percentage of permit holders on those units are turning permits back in? Most of them? Is it half of them?
Let me pull it up real quick. I did do a update last week at the board meeting, so if anyone's curious, it does show those numbers. But overall, sorry, I don't have that one. I have way too many. Maybe a third
Okay.
between the 3 units.
Beaver, Pavant, and
San Juan.
San Juan. Okay. Cool. Okay. Any other questions?
Was it mostly archery hunters turning those permits back in for the most part?
Yes, correct. And because on the Beaver and on the San Juan, it was just the archery hunts that we did grant relief to. It was the Fillmore that we did a little bit more because of the extent of that fire.
Any other questions? All right. Any questions from the public? No. Didn't have any public comments on this one. Okay. All right. We'll go to RAC discussion. Any discussion on this?
I have just a little bit, I have one concern. I just never like when it's can be left to the decision of one person and it be really broad. I understand needing more flexibility, but I just hate to see where we already see abuse of people turning in tags. And I know it still specifically states like, hey, there has to be a natural disaster. But to me, it's one thing when it's a big portion of the, especially when it's the public land, but I still think there needs to be some kind of cap. Like if it only affects like 20 or 30% of the accessible public lands, I don't know that it should be left to be abroad. I still think there should be some kind of number of accessible land that is affected by it. It's just a personal, I hate it when it's just an all or none. Again, do I think anybody's going to abuse it? No, but it's never abused till it gets abused.
Yeah.
So that's my only.
Yeah, I think it's hard where it depending on the unit dynamics and the land ownership, it can be difficult because you may only have 20 or 30% to close it off. But if it's your only access point to public land, yeah, I don't know. It's just, I think it makes it hard sometimes because you can't write a rule to take into every consideration. So, but I mean, I appreciate it. Honestly, I was talking with someone earlier today, and not many other states are willing to go through this. When we see natural, a lot of other states just tell you to pound sand and eat your tags. So,
yep. And they still have to pay. They don't get the refund of the tag fee, right? If I understood correctly, they don't get a point for that year.
Correct. If we go with the other option, like if they don't meet that criteria of the 50%, the new portion of the rule is like they just couldn't, we're waiving that 30-day window. So no point for the current year, no refund.
So there's still a penalty.
There's still a penalty for them.
okay. All right. Any more discussion? Okay, we'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to accept as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Ross, seconded by Wyatt to accept the R657-42 rule amendments as presented. Any discussion on the motion? Call for a vote, raise of hands by those in the room. Online, Rob?
Yes.
And Brandon?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimous. Okay, agenda item number 11, R657-62 rule amendments. You look up the title. What's this one?
It is the draw application rule for the non-resident active duty military exception and the landowner draw application.
Okay. All right. Start off with any questions from RAC members.
So I just want to make a little clarification if that's okay.
Sure.
Just wanted to point out, this was brought up last night, but it is for non-residents residing outside of Utah. So it's not just Utah resident, military within the state of Utah. It does apply to all non-residents active duty. So.
Okay.
The whole intent though is to give our veterans a benefit.
Yeah, that is the intent, is to get, appreciation to our not just our veterans, but our active duty.
Yeah, as we should.
military. So.
Yeah. All right. Any questions from the public? Okay. No public comments on this one?
We did have one person who responded, they supported it, but didn't leave a comment as to why.
Okay. All right. We'll move to RAC discussion. Any comments on this one? Entertain a motion.
Make a motion to accept it as presented.
I'll second it.
Motion by Hunter, seconded by Steve to accept the R657-62 rule amendments as presented. Any discussion on the motion? Call for a vote, raise a hands, those in the room. Online, Rob?
Yes.
Brandon?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimous. Agenda item number 12, R657-12 and R657-57 rule amendments. With Lindy still.
Still here.
All right. This one is the changes to hunting and fishing accommodations for people with disabilities.
Correct. Yes.
Catching on. All right. Any clarifications or summaries for us on this one?
No, I just want to, just reiterate that the purpose of this rule change is, to find the balance between our hunters with disabilities and our hunters without disabilities, and to, try to find that balance to make it equal opportunity for all. This rule hasn't been looked at for many years, and we're just trying to clean it up to help minimize the potential of abuse or abuse that's out there. And so we want this program to last. We love it. There's people out there that benefit from it, and we want to protect it as much as possible.
All right. Any questions from RAC members? Okay. Any questions from the public? And any online comments on this one? No? All right. Move to any RAC discussion or entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept as presented.
I'll second.
All right. Motion by James, seconded by Wyatt to accept the R657-12, R657-57 rule amendments as presented. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, call for a vote, raise your hands. Online, Rob?
Yes.
Brandon?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes unanimous. We're getting there. All right. Agenda item 13, proposed fee changes with Lindy Varney.
Correct. Yeah. No clarification. Just any questions? If you have any, I'd like to answer them.
Okay. Start off with any questions from the RAC?
I don't remember seeing this one. Can you sum it up?
Yes, sure. So to change a fee, we have to take it through the public process if it's coming from the Division of Wildlife. And so this is what we're doing. We're getting public input when we're wanting to adjust it. So our first adjustment is just kind of an oversight that occurred in 2022. It is on the sportsman's bison permit. It went through the fee schedule as $454 versus every other bison permit as $460. So we're asking an increase of that $6 just to make everything even. Not give that sportsman permit holder a break of $6. The next one is a proposed decrease on the spot and stock bear permit. We're asking, this came from the statewide bear committee a few years ago, and we said we would look at it and take it through if when we made those adjustments. So we're asking a reduction from $93 to $50, and for non-residents, $889 to $480. And then the third recommendation or proposed fee is called Other Site Facility. It deals with our habitat section. They're asking for a new fee of charging $2,000 per acre. Currently, there's no flat fee for leases or easements on the fee schedule. So all fees are connected to the length of the trail, the pipeline, or the road, but we don't have a fee to charge for the actual pads or reservoirs that they're utilizing. So that was that one. And then last but not least is a AIS increase. And I do have law enforcement here if you have any questions on it, but they are asking for an increase on residents from to 25, and non-residents from 25 to 50 for the AIS sticker.
That's for the what?
The AIS for boat registration.
Any other questions? All right, any questions from the public? And no online comments on this one? Okay. Move to RAC discussion.
I'm just gonna say thanks because I've been asking for it for years to get that spot and stock tag.
This was your one chance. You
Yep,
better say
so,
thanks.
Thank you very, very much. Been waiting for that one, so I like to see it.
All right. Entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the proposed fee changes as
I'll second
presented.
it.
Okay, motion by Wyatt, seconded by Steve to accept the proposed fee changes as presented. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, call for a vote. Raise your hands in the room. And online, Rob
Yes.
and Brandon.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimous. Okay, that is the last agenda item. And motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion to adjourn by Ross, seconded by James. Thank you.
Sorry.